Alright, so I swear I'm on a roll with this stuff. So anyways, there was also another theory people have been saying for years where they basically talked about how Psyduck and Golduck should have like had their names switched around, kind of like how the Marsh and the Soul Badge should have been switched around too. So for example, I'll try the best I can to explain this. So Psyduck and Golduck aren't necessarily pure psychic types. It's a pure water type rather. So it kind of makes sense that, you know, Psyduck should have been called Golduck because it is in fact a gold duck. And then, but here's where it gets interesting though. In some of the prototype data, Psyduck actually evolved into a Pokemon called Weirduck. It was a second evolution, so it became like a green duck rather. And then it would evolve into what I would like to say it should have been, you know, Psyduck? Yeah, Psyduck should have been Golduck in this case. And then, or what we got in the final version, Golduck, you know, the blue one. And he's like 5'4", I believe. So again, it's, I think they also should have made him a psychic type too. I know like some of the Pokemon cards, like, you know, this is another theory that's actually really interesting. If you remember the Generation 1, like the Wizard of the Coast cards and all that, you might be familiar with like some of the Pokemon moves on them, like Jab, for example, like Hitmonchan, and moves like Super Psy that like Kadabra could learn. I think it did like 50-60 points of damage. Believe it or not, those Pokemon moves were actually at probably a 1 point scrap from the original concept of Pokemon. Like, so like certain Pokemon moves would do like even more damage, but there was supposed to be like more moves in between. I'll give you an example, like even Dragonite learns like a move called Mega Fire, which is actually, again, supposed to be a parody of, it's like supposed to be as of right now in this prototype, I can only find 2 Dragon type moves. There's Dragon Rage, and then there's Mega Fire, which is a Dragon type move. It basically like the Hyper Beam animation, but instead of the laser attack portion, it just spits like the flamethrower animation. The screen turns black, and then it does the whoosh effect. It's really interesting, actually. I wouldn't be very surprised in the slightest if, again, due to cartridge limitations, they cut it out. And the same thing goes with Psyduck and Golduck. Maybe at some point, and I mean, you know, maybe, you know, because Golduck and Psyduck literally do look very identical. Well, I mean, like, you know, the names kind of sound like you could sort of see why they still stuck with it. Like, again, Golduck could be like, it's a Pokemon that, while it doesn't look like it's made of gold or it shoots gold or it's worth gold, but it's, you know, it could be like pure rich somehow. Like maybe there's a metaphor on its name. And then Psyduck could still be a Psyduck because it's always got that whomping headache. So maybe that's why they stuck with the names. I think maybe that might have been why they did what they did, you know. You know, it doesn't look like it, but at the same time, though, or maybe even at one point, maybe they could have just been psychic water types. I don't even think that's really, has it been done yet? Is there a combination of psychic water types in the Pokemon? I think there is. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. I think like Gen 4 and 5 maybe. Heck, I think it was maybe Gen 7. There was a couple Pokemon that were water psychic types. Maybe the Tapu legendaries. Tapu Finny. Finny was a psychic. No, that was a pure water type. But she didn't learn any psychic moves, did she? No. No, they were, well, it was like a water fairy type. Yeah, it wasn't a psychic type. Alright, never mind. I was wrong. Okay, so it's certain Pokemon. It is interesting though. Like, you know, if Golduck and Psyduck really did have their names switched around, it still works either way because, you know, you can see what they did with it. But at the same time though, it kind of makes you wonder what Weirduck would have been like if it was incorporated into the games. You know, how much different it would have been over the years. Like its stats and Golduck's stats are significantly much different, but it does make you wonder, you know, how much stronger Golduck would have been. And I think that's another thing I got to pull up in the prototype. I'm trying to figure it out, like, you know, looking at like their final evolutions, do they still keep their stats the same? Because if you have like a stage evolution where, like, you know, take like Golduck for example, you know, is Golduck's stats still the same compared to, like, you know, maybe what it was in the prototype? If you know, there was like another evolution before it, was its stats a little bit higher because it's a 3-stage evolution instead of a 2? You know, so instead of just going from Psyduck to Golduck, it could have gone Psyduck, Weirduck, and then Golduck. And so it's interesting, you know, to think that maybe at one point, maybe not only did they think the name should have been swapped, but maybe at the same time, though, what other Pokemon could they have thrown in there that would have otherwise made it a little bit different? Because, again, even Weirduck, if I remember correctly, was, in fact, just a water type. I don't even think, and even in the prototype, I don't even think Psyduck, Golduck, and Weirduck were even psychic and water types. I think they were just pure water types, and that was it. I'll double check and I'll throw it in this video. But as I'm recording the audio for this, I don't know off the top of my head. But it's very interesting indeed. Like, again, how many ideas were changed, how many ideas were scrapped, and I want to add this. The bird type actually in the prototype was actually the same as flying type. So it was like the dual flying type. You had two Pokemon that were bird types and they were flying types, and so you hit them with electricity times 4 damage basically. So yeah, it's really interesting how that worked. I also want to say bird types were, at least in the final version, maybe it was a little bit different, but no. Flying type was definitely supposed to be bird type at one point. Bird type was flying type, later changed to flying type. It just made more sense because not all flying type Pokemon were necessarily birds. I think maybe that's why they changed it. Because again, like, I'll give you an example. When you think of a bird, what's one thing you think of aside from the fact that they could fly? They got feathers, correct? So not all Pokemon were technically bird types. Maybe they figured, like, I'll give you an example. Like, take a Pokemon like Charizard, for example. Now, Charizard is supposed to be like a little lizard Pokemon, but it's got wings, though. It can still fly. Another good example, look at Dragonite. Dragonite's got scales, and it can still fly. Or it's got, like, sort of like soft skin, maybe. But it's, like, compared to a Pokemon like Articuno, that's, like, really, really frigid, but it's got nice warm feathers, probably, and its body temperature is probably really, really warm. So, or maybe it's still cold, because, I think cold, yeah, but I'll give you another example. Look at Moltres, for example. Moltres, very hot Pokemon, probably has burning feathers. Kind of reminds me of Mockingjay, the burning fire one, Hunger Games. They like a phoenix. Its wings are flammable, but it's a bird though. It's got flammable feathers, basically, if that even makes sense. So anyways, it'd be like a Pokemon or a Pokemon like Farfetch. Farfetch has got feathers, and it's not a fire type, or an ice type. So, because it's got feathers, it's nice and warm. So it'd be like, it's a bird Pokemon. So that would kind of make sense why they wanted to say that. But, but at the same time, though, maybe some Pokemon could fly, and they didn't necessarily have feathers. So maybe that's why they changed bird type to flying type, because then it made more sense. Because you've got Pokemon that don't have feathers, but they have wings, though, and they could still fly. Another good example, Zubat, Biddybat, Golbat, Crobat. They didn't have feathers, but they could still fly, though. Good example. Still weak against electricity, though, or rock type moves, and they were still immune to ground type moves because they weren't on the ground. They weren't roosting, so it made sense. And anyways, or if you remember the Pokemon move Roost, then the Pokemon loses the ability to fly again. I think, unless it used Fly in the battle and then it regained the momentum off the ground. I think that's how it works. So like a Pokemon like Pidgey can learn Roost, and then it would lose its flying ability. But if you teach it Fly and have it use Fly in battle, then it regains the flying ability again. So it's now maneuvering in the air again. It's actually pretty interesting. Again, but that was not in Gen 1. That was in Gen 4, I believe, when roosting became a Pokemon move. Or was it Gen 5? No, Gen 4. Gen 4. So yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. Yeah. So, other Pokemon ideas that I'm still looking into, a lot of beta type moves that were actually scrapped from the game, but at the same time though, a lot of beta moves that were actually sort of related to the Pokemon trading card game, for example. So there is evidence to believe that a lot of these moves really weren't just a coincidence for the card game, but maybe at one point were actually in the real games as well. So that'll be interesting to dig into. So again, just like always, again, comment, rate, subscribe, favorite, share this video. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. I'll try the best I can to keep updating it, but right now we're basically just trying to dig through as much Pokemon theories as we can, try to bring up more information about what Pokemon maybe once was, and try to figure out the lost history of Game Freak, rather, because, I mean, just say what you will about their company, but, I mean, they did create a series that a lot of people have been wanting answers for years.